I would say that I am a person with a skeptical mindset. I was like that until that day. I used to live with my wife and son in a small country house surrounded by low hills and trees that sang in the wind at night. When she died, it was officially an accident, although deep down I knew it wasn't. It was just me and my son. He was 7 years old, and he reminded me so much of her. It was hard at first. He became estranged from his friends. Grief and her absence had hit him hard. He walked around the house in silence, always with his shoulders hunched, and his voice trembled whenever he mentioned his mother. As a father, it was unbearable for me to see that I couldn't comfort my own son. I tried everything, sweets, toys, trips to his favorite places, but nothing helped. A few months later, I received a job offer. She was far away. And I decided that this would be our new beginning. We packed up and left in the hope of a better life. The town was small, surrounded by farmland and hills shrouded in morning mist. There was something peaceful and soothing about this place. At first I liked it. It seemed like a good place to start over. I managed to rent a cheap apartment about 15 minutes away by car from work. Things seemed to be getting better. My son started smiling again and was playing in the park next to the building. Gradually, life began to return to its usual course. I got a simple job at a local distribution center, where I sorted goods and made deliveries from time to time. It was nothing special, but it allowed me to pay my bills and return home in the late afternoon, which was important for both of us. My son seems to have adapted well too. He returned to school, began to draw and smile more often. However, I began to notice that he talks a lot about the two friends, the twins, with whom he spends most of his time in the park near our house. One day, he asked if he could invite the twins to play. I said I could, if their parents didn't mind. But later, I regretted that decision. I returned home and saw that my son was talking to himself. I asked where the twins were, and he replied, "Like where? They are here, Dad," and pointed to a spot next to him. But there was nothing there. I understood everything right away. My son must have made up imaginary friends to deal with his grief. That's why I played along with him. I didn't want to ruin his fantasy. Oh, of course. How could I have missed them? I said, trying to sound casual. "Hi guys. Nice to meet you." My son laughed and continued playing with them. It was a little disturbing that the friends he talked about so much didn't really exist, but at least he was happy again. I just let him be a child. I started cooking something for dinner and went to get Luke. His muffled voice came from the bedroom. I slowly opened the door, still holding the pot in my hands, and saw him from behind. He was on his knees, and his toy cars were scattered on the carpet. "The hatch!" I called softly. He slowly turned his head, but he didn't want to take his eyes off the game. He looked at me with a small, shy smile. "The twins said they were hungry too." "Yes." I smiled back. "Then I'd better cook more food." He laughed loudly and joyfully. "They liked you, Dad." I returned to the kitchen and started setting the table. I put a plate for myself and one for my son. He pulled out 4 chairs, mine, his, and the chairs for the twins. "You forgot their plates, Dad," he said sheepishly, as if it were unthinkable. "Of course, how could I forget?" I smiled awkwardly. He was very serious. "I'll put them down now." I took 2 more plates and placed them in front of the chairs that Luke had pushed aside. They were empty, of course, but he didn't seem too happy about it. "Food, Dad. You're upsetting them," he said almost impatiently. I tried to explain that they didn't need to eat without disturbing his game. Luke looked down at his plate and began to pick at his food with a fork. He muttered something that I couldn't hear. I went to the counter to get more cutlery, but turned around when I heard something break. They were the plates I had set for the twins, and they had been thrown off the table. I didn't think my son was capable of such a thing. "Son, are you okay?" I asked worriedly, wondering how such a thing could happen in such a short period of time. "I'm fine, Dad," he replied, and I felt a little calmer. "They didn't like what you did." I scolded him, saying that he shouldn't do that, and carefully picked up the pieces from the floor. He grumbled and repeated that he had done nothing. I helped him finish his dinner and put him to bed. He was clearly upset and seemed to regret what had happened. I calmed him down and apologized if I was too harsh. It had been a long time since his mother had died, but there must still be thousands of thoughts in his head. I waited for him to fall asleep. His disheveled hair stuck to his damp forehead, and his long eyelashes almost touched his cheeks. The light from the hallway fell on the room in a yellow stripe, and for a moment it seemed to me that the curtain was swaying, although there was no wind. I was sitting on the couch and staring at an empty TV screen. I thought about calling someone, a friend, maybe a sister. But what would I say? It seems that my son has two imaginary friends who consider him their own. I would laugh at myself. I ended up falling asleep right there. But the strangest thing is that I saw a child's reflection on the TV. I thought it was my son. I was too sleepy to speak or move, but before I realized it wasn't him, I fell asleep. I woke up to sunlight coming through a crack in the curtains. I squinted and closed my eyes again. It was still early, and the house was completely silent. For a moment, I almost convinced myself that last night's dinner was just a weird dream. I got up slowly, feeling the weight of accumulated fatigue. I went straight into the hallway, expecting the door to my son's bedroom to be closed, and I was not mistaken. The door was ajar, and I saw his small silhouette wrapped in a blanket. I went into the kitchen and noticed the package on the table only when I turned on the light. It was a small box wrapped in red paper and tied with a gold ribbon, so crooked that it was clear it wasn't from the store. At the top was a note written in a child's handwriting, "I'm sorry about last night." A chill ran down my spine, the reason for which I could not understand. I slowly opened it. Inside was a brand new wristwatch. Black, with metal inserts, too beautiful to be part of a child's game. I had never seen this watch before, and there was no way my son could have bought something like it. I stood holding the box in my hands, and could only hear the beating of my own heart. "The Hatch!" I called out several times until I got an answer, without taking my eyes off the gift. He appeared in the kitchen doorway with puffy eyes, and was rubbing one of them with the sleeve of his pajamas. "They left it for you, Dad," he said, smiling as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "Those twins?" He nodded. "They said you were kind to them last night. And that they were upset because you were mad at me." I looked at my watch again. None of this made sense. "The Hatch? Where did you get this watch?" "They left it on the windowsill in the living room. I just brought it over and put it on the table for you." My first impulse was to doubt it, to say that it was impossible, that no one had entered, that it simply couldn't be. But I looked at his face. And for some reason, I just said, "Thank you." "Thanks, son." "This? Fine." He smiled contentedly and took out the cereal from the cupboard, as if nothing special had happened. Now the twins were a part of our lives.